the sort of things you need to consider as a business operator in terms of your options for your plan B or your contingency plans. Where can we operate from? The sort of ideas that we have for our clients are hotels. You may have operations in another country like Toyota or Honda or some of the other big providers do. Or you may even consider working with some of your customers. Some of your customers may be so reliant on your goods and services, even during a flood, that it's better for them to let you operate from within their site than it is to have you not working at all. You may be able to outsource some of your production services or your other outsourcing services. You may be able to get somebody else to help you do something which may cost you more money, but it will at least provide your customers with an ongoing service. That may be better than not operating. Of course, if you implement a plan B or a contingency plan, things you have to consider about employees. Can they get to work? How will they travel to and from work? Where will they stay? If we set up a plan B site very close to where we are now, okay, that will be easy. But if we move to another part of Thailand or another part of another country, then how will those staff members get to and from work? What about if they've got personal issues in their house now? How long will it take you to implement your plan? If we think, for example, that the floodwaters will go down after 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, or even 2 months in some cases, then that will affect what sort of options we use in terms of our plan B. What can we set up within a week? What can we set up within a month? How much will it cost? If you make 100 million baht in a month, but it's going to cost you 1 billion baht to set up a new factory, then you may not want to do it. But however, if you can set up something that provides 50% of your normal services and can get you 50% of your revenue, and you can do that very quickly, then that may well be a viable option to take. Of course, you have to consider your raw materials and your utilities services. You need electricity, you need telecommunications, you need equipment, but you will need some sort of raw materials or suppliers. If those suppliers are underwater, then you may not even be able to operate. If those suppliers can't get something to you because the roads are blocked, that may also be a big problem for you. So you need to consider what your suppliers' options are and how you can get your raw materials. Of course, many companies implement contingency plans and they forget about things like finished goods. So where are we going to put our finished goods after we make them? In the office scenario, I've heard of many companies who've tried to set up a plan B. They've got some computers in place, they've got the office up and running, they've got their security passes for everybody, and then they forget their paperwork or their files. Okay? You need to consider all the things like machinery and files and paperwork that you will need to operate. Okay? Once you produce something and you're up and running with your plan B, how are you going to get that to your customers? Okay, it's no point manufacturing something and the roads being blocked, or the trains that you need being blocked, or the airports being closed. So you need to consider all of those things when you set up your plan B. And of course, in this day and age with IT and being so critical and computers, you need to think about things like your servers, your email addresses, your IP addresses, who's going to set up and change all of those if you change location, and of course, how you keep your website up and running and how you may or may not need to make changes to that website. The key success factors that you'll need to consider for your plan B: communication. It will be the number one problem that you have in any disaster, in any crisis. People will make mistakes in communication. So you need to be very conscious that you get your communication correct. Okay. The other big things from a management perspective: speed and decisiveness. With a plan B, the aim is to get it up and running as fast as possible, and you need to be very sure about what you're going to do. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you do have to make the decision and let everybody know that you've made the decision. Okay? Very essential to the operation of any plan B and any crisis management situation: the fatigue of the team. Okay? If you're trying to operate 24 hours a day to set up a factory and you've got the same people running it, I can give you lots of stories of people having heart attacks, or people being sacked, people having car accidents because they've just been too tired, and that's actually created further problems. So you need to manage the tiredness, the stress, the fatigue of your team. Obviously, you need the support of your staff and the people who have experience in your business. Some staff members you'll find are themselves underwater, or their houses or their families are underwater, and they will be more conscious and more thinking about those personal issues than they are about your business. So don't choose those people to help you in this situation. But you can't always select each individual that you need. So you need to get the support from your team, and you need to be conscious of them and communicating with them and their families. Make sure you say thank you to them at the end of all of this. Okay. Every time you issue decision or information out, make sure you set up a feedback loop of some sort to confirm that the people that you want to know this decision or take an action or be provided this information get the right message and confirm that they're doing something. You also need to know that they've implemented something. They need to tell you what they've done if there's been any problems, because that may affect your next steps in your plan. Very critical and very confusing in the crisis scenario. And of course, if for nothing else than the court cases afterwards, keep records of everything you do during the crisis. Take photos. Keep a copy of all the emails or information or decisions that you've made, and record all of these as you go. Okay. You will need this information for insurance claims afterwards. You'll also need it to help improve your capabilities for responding to the next crisis that comes along. That's contingency planning, that's plan B, that's setting up a temporary office or operation for the time after the crisis where you probably can't get access to your main building. The second thing you need to consider is a recovery plan. Now, you may do this either once the water goes without a contingency plan or a plan B ever having been done, or you might set up your contingency plan and then do your recovery plan. So the sort of things you need to consider for a recovery plan or a return to business as usual, same three broad steps. Get organised quickly, make a plan, and then implement and monitor that plan. Okay, the sort of things you need to consider for this, questions you need to ask yourself. What do we need to operate from a new site or a recovered site? What machinery, what equipment, what files, what IT services? What are the actual things we need to do our business? Where will we operate from? Will we operate from the old site, which may have been cleaned up and brought back to health? Or will we actually make a decision now and move to a whole new location? Will we perhaps set up multiple new locations so that in the event that a major flood happens again, we don't have everything taken out by one disaster, which is what many companies now do? Will we attempt to provide 100% capacity on day one of our new operation? For example, what I mean is you may have a product range of say 10 or 20 products that you normally manufacture or normally produce for your customers. Shall we just do 5? Shall we just do 7? Shall we just do 8? If our normal orders or capabilities are to make something like 1,000 units per day, shall we just do 700 or 800 of each of our products? Will that be enough to get us back to profitability and to keep our customers happy? Okay. Of course, that leads us to think, what do the customers expect? Our customers will generally know that we've been the victim of some sort of disaster, and we hope that our customers haven't gone and started looking for new suppliers. But that's a reality. We need to communicate with the customers. We need to be talking to them all the time and saying, what is it that you expect from us? What do you want from us now? The other reverse question, of course, is the suppliers. If the suppliers themselves have been hit by the floods, and that's very much the case here in this Thailand flood situation, the suppliers may not be able to supply us with our normal raw materials or our normal inputs. So we need to be communicating with those suppliers all along and saying, what can you give us? Do we need to go and find other suppliers? The sort of things that will make your recovery planning a success, or a failure of course, will be things like, can you get in quickly after the flood and do a detailed damage assessment? Will you need specialists for this? Will the utilities, such as electricity, telecommunications, internet access, sewerage, will those things be up and running quickly? Will the roads be working? Okay. Will your building be safe to return into, or will you need to do repairs, or will you just need cleaning? Will you be able to access, via the roads or other methods, your building? Will it be safe to go in? You may need to book specialists for all of that assessment and review very quickly. You can do that now. The sort of things you can also do are you know that you're going to have certain level of cleaning needed. You can book those cleaning teams now. I already know lots of companies that are running around trying to plan and book cleaners. Everybody knows they're going to do a lot of this. At the same time, generally you will know which of your machines are likely to have been damaged. This could be IT equipment, or it could be large expensive machinery. Okay, you can generally estimate that now. You can start ordering that now if you need to get that from overseas. Okay. Some of you will have had stock losses. Okay. So there will be warehouses and storage places that have been damaged, and that stock will be written off. You can start doing the accounting assessment for that now. You can start calculating all of that now. Obviously your IT systems, you will know whether the servers and computers and PCs or even just the network has been below the water level. So you can get your IT people together now and you can start planning what they're going to have to do the recovery work. You may not be able to do that work yet. My point is you can start the planning and the thinking and the assessment now. You may need to even get security teams. It may not be safe to go back in. You may need to create security situations so that people could get blocked and not go in. But you also may have certain equipment that is very special. You may even have product prototypes in some cases that you don't want people to see. You may need to book some security teams now so that when the floodwaters go down, you can send a security team in quickly to make sure that that information is safe. Obviously, some of the keys again, talk to your customers, talk to your suppliers, and very much talk to your employees. Manage the fatigue and stress of the team again. Use contractors. One of my key messages to all of my clients during floods or other crisis events is your own people will be very emotionally attached to your organisation. In normal times, that's fantastic. To have your people passionate and excited about coming to work, that's really good. But during a crisis, some hard decisions have to be made. Quite often, contractors will be able to make those decisions easier because they're not emotionally attached to your operations. Okay? Using outside contractors and suppliers for this sort of work also allows you to get single invoices or different exceptional invoices which are not part of your normal operations. For example, when we try and make insurance claims, we will be able to show the invoices from individual cleaning companies or outside specialists, and this will be quite clear in terms of your costs for your insurance claims. As opposed to if you use some of your own people, there'll be an issue between what's a normal salary payment and what part of their time was allocated to flood recovery. Okay, and of course, your people are good at their jobs. That's what you've trained them for. They're not specialists in cleaning, they're not specialists in recovery services. So it's good to get contractors and outside. Two other key points: keep evidence, keep the records, keep the history of all the things you're doing. Very important for after the event. And talk to your insurers early. I can't stress that early enough. If you have insurance, talk to the insurance companies as early as possible. The last key points that I want to make are your people know how to run your business. That's great in a normal situation, but they're not experts in managing crisis. It's a very different skill set that you need to manage a crisis. It's better to ask for outside advice and help during this time. You may not have in place today some sort of crisis management system and planning. You may not have had any training. If you ask an outside provider to come in and help you at this time, they are going to come in with those models and those systems which they can implement very easily. It's going to be a big benefit for you to be able to start that process earlier. Okay. Experts will normally be able to walk in with planning templates or other templates and pieces of paper, systems that you will need in place already that they can adapt for your needs or for any different disasters. The key point, of course, is the idea is you want a simple process to get you moving now. You don't want to sit around and wait and be the logistics company that I used to be involved with that didn't respond to a crisis fast enough and lost the whole Coca-Cola contract for all of Australia. The good thing about using an outside party, it's all claimable under your insurance. If you have insurance and you get an invoice from an outside provider, it will all be claimable by them. They were just some key points that I've tried to very quickly go through there in terms of making a contingency plan or a plan B and making a recovery plan to get you back to business as usual. There's lots of other things you need to consider. I've just tried to put together some of the key points for now. Good luck.